Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
The Other Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling, Adam Finnegan. Adam Finnegan, an author. He wrote the book The Sleeper Agent. It's not like you sleeping. No, this is the sleeper agent. Adam contacted Lyme disease, and he survived. But it inspired him to dig into the history of the disease to discover that there were some extremely nefarious origins. Nefarious, an SAT word. Adam, why don't you first tell me what Lyme disease felt like, and then I want you to share what these origins are. But what did it feel like?
Yeah, okay. So I think a good word to describe it for someone is it feels like you've been poisoned. You feel awful, malaise. I have chronic headaches that never go away. My head is like all numb and tingly, and you have migrating joint pains and just unpredictable health problems. Just all sorts of symptoms that change up all the time, but just generally you feel awful. Now, the other part of that is that you look normal, and the tests come back normal, and the scans come back normal, which is a big part of the disease, and what I call, or what are termed strategic bioweapons, or incapacitating strategic bioweapons. These are bioweapons that are meant to act long-term. They're not meant to kill. They're meant to produce a heavy burden on an economy, so economic weapons. And they will cause all sorts of they cause a condition called immune tolerance, which is basically chronic immunosuppression. It creates this chronic immune deficiency. It burns out your immune system. So I started looking into that, and I
well, wait a sec. So that's really important. So it's hard. It's impossible to truly diagnose. It makes you sick as a dog. You look great. Yeah. The doctors go, your tests are negative. It must be in your head. Yeah. That's a brilliant bioweapon. Right. That is a brilliant, Adam Finnegan, that is a brilliant bioweapon. Who the heck designed, you believe it's a bioweapon. Who designed it? Who do you think designed it? And what was their goal?
Yes. So there was a man who discovered this condition and how stealth it was and everything. And his name, he was a German virologist. His name was Erich Traub, a veterinarian, but he worked in biological weapons. And he discovered this over at the Rockefeller Institute in the 1930s. And he studied this condition his entire life. When he went back to Germany to fight for the Nazis, he started to make bioweapons that would cause this. And one of the ways you could cause this is by rolling a number of different tick-borne diseases all into one tick. And it creates this very confusing condition. You have multiple infections. It burns out the immune system, and then you get also opportunistic infections, and you get these reactivated viruses. That's one of the main things. That's one of the main effects of this is reactivation of latent viruses. Because Erich Traub discovered this while he was trying to reactivate a dormant virus inside a mouse, and he did, and it became known as lymphocytic choriomeningitis virus, or LCM virus. And then he started to say, well, how can I apply this to the biological weapons game? And now he also found that it would also cause neuropsychiatric disorders, neurological disorders, and cancers. So it was an economic weapon, and it was meant to be long-term, but it also does cause a lot of death when indirectly.
Now, Adam Finnegan, why did he want this bioweapon? Who was he supposed to be attacking?
Well, when he came over here in Project Paperclip is when I have that he was...
and what year was that, Adam Finnegan? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what year was
1949.
that?
1949, he came over here. And in my book, The Sleeper Agent, I talked about how his lab over in Germany, he was running a German version of Plum Island called Insulrenes. And when he was at the end of the war, it was captured by the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union basically blackmailed him with war crimes, and then sent him over here to attack us through Operation Paperclip. Because we put him at the top of the biological weapons game in our program in the U.S., and he was basically advising us on how to run a biological weapons program. He was indispensable. His file says he's the most talented in biological weapons, and he was indispensable to our program. So he was put very high up. He basically told them how to run the program, and he's saying, you hide it under veterinary problems and animal disease. And he also would take animal diseases and turn them to humans. Like, he would adapt viruses and diseases to new species that it didn't infect before. That was one of his specialties. So he was able to start taking animal diseases that never affected humans and start turning them on humans as well. So it was, from what I have, is that it was this, the Nazis were making it, of course, but the Soviet Union took hold of his entire lab and then sent him over here. And they talked about having, there's a Day X I talk about in my book where it's a large-scale war of bioterrorism against the United States.
Now, Adam, one of the things about Lyme disease that I've always heard is there's no cure. Is there a cure?
Right now, I'm still sick, and a lot of other people I know are still sick, but there is hope coming out of Japan. Somebody that I know, his name is Dr. Kevin McCairn. He's doing something called plasmapheresis, which basically it takes your blood and it filters it and then puts it back into you. But in the process, he incorporates these stem cell growth factors, and he's having really great results right now. It's just that it's very expensive. But if we had something like that, then that could probably be the answer to this.
Now, but beyond the cure, before the cure, was anybody making profit by making people sick? Was there a profit motive here?
Absolutely. And that's another thing, is that it seems, they never incorporated what Eric Traub found into our modern immunology when it came to infectious disease. They just completely ignore it. And it looks like the problem is that some of the vaccines that we have also contribute to it. So,
like which ones?
It's kind of
like which vaccines?
All of them, actually.
Really?
There's a lot of them that basically burn out the immune system into a similar state, and I've met a lot of people through groups that became sick like me after routine vaccines of all different kinds. And when I started to look into it, I started to realize it's the very same state, these Lyme-like diseases. It's the very same immune tolerance that Eric Traub had found. And it's crazy because we could have started to understand chronic disease back in 1960, but they gave the Nobel Prize to these two guys that didn't work together, and they made it about organ transplant recipients, because the same condition can happen in organ transplant recipients. And they just basically totally ignored it as it related to infectious disease.
Todd.
And then I started to find papers like in 2012, right? There's a paper called Disease Tolerance as a Defense Strategy, and that's when it dawned on me that they're actually looking at this as an acceptable form of immunity, which doesn't make any sense because what Eric Traub had found.
Yeah, makes no sense.
Yeah, because what Eric Traub had found was that it would always cause chronic diseases, cancers, and neuropsychiatric or neurological disorders. So when you look at the history of it, it doesn't look like something that would be acceptable. But they're still doing that because they make all sorts of money off all those other three things. They make all the money off chronic diseases. They make all the money off neuropsychiatric and neurological disorders and cancers.
Do you really believe that the pharmaceutical industry depends on chronic diseases, depends on keeping us sick in order to be profitable? Do you really believe that's what the pharmaceutical industry does?
I mean, I don't think the majority of people realize that or think that way. I think it's something that happened in within a very small group of people. But But overall, I think most of the people don't want that, and they're
No.
probably ignorant of it.
Yeah, probably. Adam Finnegan. Adam Finnegan is the author of Sleeper Agent. He suffers from Lyme disease. He's on the side of a road, and he did the homework to find out, where did Lyme disease start? And Adam Finnegan believes and proves, in author of Sleeper Agent, that it was bioengineered. It was created by humans. The reasons are astonishing. And Adam Finnegan, thank you very much for being on the other side of midnight.